I didn't get an invitation to my brother's wedding, so I went on a trip. Sorry, dear. This event is only for the closest people, my mother said. When the wedding was cancelled because of a debt, the whole family started begging me, but it was too late? My name is Haley Wilson, I'm 32, and I never thought checking my mailbox would change my life. For months, I'd been eagerly anticipating my brother Kevin's wedding invitation. When the envelope finally arrived, my heart soared until I opened it. Inside wasn't an invitation but a handwritten note. Sorry, dear, this event is adults only. Adults only? I am an adult. The truth hit me like a punch. My brother's fiancée Stephanie didn't want me there. Confusion, hurt, and anger flooded through me. Kevin and I grew up thick as thieves in suburban Philadelphia, just two siblings against the world. For years older than me, he was my protector, my confidant, and often my accomplice in childhood mischief. We'd spend summers building elaborate forts in our backyard, creating entire worlds where nothing could touch us. Kevin taught me to ride a bike, helped me with math homework, and chased away the neighborhood kids who teased me about my braces in 7th grade. Our bond solidified when our parents' marriage imploded. I was 15, Kevin 19, and just starting college. The divorce was messy, shouting matches, slammed doors, and tense custody arrangements. While our parents were busy tearing each other apart, Kevin became my anchor. He'd drive home from Penn State most weekends just to make sure I was okay, taking me for ice cream, and letting me vent about the chaos at home. It's you and me, Hales, he'd say, using the nickname only he was allowed to use. We're the only ones who understand what this feels like. When I graduated high school, Kevin was there cheering louder than anyone. When I got my first heartbreaking college, he drove 3 hours to bring me chicken soup and watch terrible action movies until I laughed again. When I landed my first marketing job in Boston, he helped me move and assembled all my IKEA furniture without complaining. That's who we were to each other. Constants in a changing world until Stephanie. Kevin met her 4 years ago at the prestigious law firm where they both worked in Boston. I remember his early texts about her, how brilliant she was in the courtroom, how she laughed at his terrible jokes, how she challenged him to be better. I was happy for him. Kevin had dated casually for years, but never seemed to find someone who matched his ambition and intellect. Our first meeting was at an upscale restaurant in Back Bay. I noticed how Kevin constantly looked to Stephanie for approval, a subtle shift in his confidence that unsettled me. Stephanie was polished and poised in her designer dress, pearl earrings catching the light as she assessed me with a practiced smile. Kevin's told me so much about you, she said, but her tone suggested those stories might not have been flattering. Throughout dinner, she steered conversations toward their law firm colleagues and country club connections. Worlds I didn't belong to with my creative marketing career and modest apartment. When I brought up childhood memories, Stephanie would subtly change the subject as if our shared history was irrelevant to Kevin's future. The changes in Kevin happened gradually. First, he stopped answering my calls immediately, often taking days to return them. Our Sunday night phone calls, a tradition since college, became monthly, then quarterly. When we did speak, conversations revolved around his cases or Stephanie's accomplishments. He rarely asked about my life anymore. Kevin's just busy. Our mom would say, when I express concern, that's what happens when you're building a future with someone. But it felt like more than busyness. It felt like erasure. I made efforts to maintain our connection. I sent thoughtful birthday gifts, arranged tickets to Celtics games, his favorite team, and suggested brunches that worked with a schedule. Most attempts were met with last-minute cancellations or polite, but distant interactions when we did meet. Meanwhile, I built my own life in Boston. I worked my way up to senior marketing manager at a tech startup, made a small but loyal group of friends, dated occasionally, though nothing serious stuck. My apartment in Cambridge became my sanctuary, small but filled with books, plants, and art from local creators. I was proud of the life I'd built, yet something fundamental felt missing without my brother's presence in it. The last meaningful conversation we had was 6 months ago when he called to announce his engagement. Despite everything, genuine happiness for him surged through me. "I'm so thrilled for you, Kev," I said, using my childhood nickname for him. "You deserve all the happiness in the world." "Thanks, Hales," he replied, and for a moment, I heard the warmth of my brother return. "It means a lot coming from you." I immediately offered to help with wedding planning. I could design invitations, research venues, whatever they needed. There was an awkward pause. "That's really sweet," he finally said. "But Stephanie's mom is handling most of it, and they've hired a wedding planner for the rest." Still, I held on to hope that the wedding would bring us closer again. That somehow, sharing in this milestone would remind Kevin of our bond. I imagined us laughing during his bachelor party stories, sharing a special sibling dance at the reception, toasting to new beginnings while acknowledging our shared past. So I waited for that invitation, checking my mailbox eagerly for months. And when it finally arrived, it wasn't an invitation at all. The day the letter arrived started like any other Tuesday. My alarm blared at 6:30 a.m., and I dragged myself out of bed to water my collection of houseplants before my morning run along the Charles River. My apartment was bathed in the soft golden light of early autumn, my favorite season in New England. The crisp air, the changing leaves, and the sense of new beginnings always energized me. I returned home, showered, and made my usual breakfast smoothie before heading downstairs to check my mail. The brass mailbox in the lobby of my brownstone apartment building was usually filled with nothing but bills and flyers, but that day was different. Wedged between a utility bill and a takeout menu was a cream-colored envelope with elegant handwriting I immediately recognized as Kevin's. My heart raced as I examined the envelope. The paper was thick and expensive, with a subtle shimmer, definitely wedding stationery. Finally, after months of waiting, the invitation had arrived. I practically skipped back upstairs, clutching the envelope to my chest. Back in my apartment, I carefully opened it, not wanting to tear what I assumed would be a beautiful invitation. Inside wasn't the expected formal card with gold embossing and RSVP details. Instead, there was just a small note card with a handwritten message. "Dear Haley, I hope this note finds you well. Stephanie and I wanted to let you know that our wedding ceremony and reception will be an adults-only event. We hope you understand and look forward to celebrating with you another time. Love, Kevin." I read it 3 times trying to make sense of the words. Adults only? I'm 32 years old with a corporate job and a 401k. I'm hardly a child. Confusion gave way to realization as the truth sank in. This wasn't an invitation. This was the opposite. A formal uninvitation. A notification that I wasn't welcome. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone. I dialed Kevin's number, my breathing shallow and quick. It went straight to voicemail. "Kevin, it's me. I just got your note about the wedding being adults only, and I'm confused. I'm literally an adult. Call me back, please." I tried to focus on work emails, but my concentration was shattered. After an hour with no response, I sent a text. "Got your note. Not sure I understand. Can we talk about this?" 20 minutes later, his reply came through. "In meetings all day. It's just easier this way with venue constraints. Talk later." Venue constraints? For his only sibling? The excuse was so transparent it made my stomach turn. I tried calling again that evening. When he didn't answer, I finally called Stephanie directly. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice cool and collected. "Haley, this isn't a good time. We're meeting with the florist. I just need to understand what's happening," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Kevin sent me a note saying the wedding is adults only, but that doesn't make any sense." She sighed. The sound tinny through the phone. "Look, we're trying to keep the guest list manageable. The venue has strict capacity limits." "I'm a sister," I said, my voice cracking. "His only sibling." "I understand that," she replied, though her tone suggested she didn't. "But with family tensions being what they are, we thought this would be easiest." "What family tensions?" I asked, genuinely bewildered. "Kevin mentioned you two haven't been close lately," she said. "And with your tendency to be emotional, we worried it might create awkwardness." My tendency to be emotional? I felt like I'd been slapped. Before I could respond, she continued. "We really need to get back to this meeting. Kevin can call you tomorrow to explain further." The line went dead before I could reply. I sat in stunned silence, clutching my phone. Through tears, I opened Instagram and was immediately confronted with posts from mutual friends about bachelor and bachelorette party preparations. People I barely knew, colleagues from Kevin's firm, Stephanie's college roommates, distant cousins we saw only at funerals, all celebrating their inclusion in a wedding I was explicitly excluded from. Desperate for answers, I called my mother. "Honey, I was hoping they'd change their minds. She said after I explained the situation, confirming she'd known all along. Stephanie's parents are contributing significantly to the wedding, and they have strong opinions about the guest list. And Kevin just went along with that? With excluding his own sister? Her silence was answer enough. Will you be there? I asked, already knowing the answer. I am sorry, sweetheart. I tried to convince him this was wrong, but she would still attend. Everyone would. Life would go on as if my exclusion was a minor detail rather than a seismic rejection. I spent that night scrolling through years of photos. Kevin and me building sandcastles at Cape Cod. Kevin holding a proud brother sign at my college graduation. Kevin and me at Thanksgiving just 2 years ago, arms slung around each other's shoulders, matching grins. What had happened to us? When had I become dispensable? Through mutual friends, I learned that nearly everyone else in our social circle had received proper invitations months ago. I was the only significant omission. The knowledge settled in my chest like a stone. Heavy and immovable. Monday morning found me staring blankly at my computer screen. The marketing proposal I had been working on for weeks, now meaningless symbols on a digital page. My coworker Jenna stopped by my desk, setting down a coffee. You look like you need this more than I do, she said, concern evident in her voice. Everything okay? Fine. I replied automatically. Just didn't sleep well. Must be contagious. Half the office looks pommified today. She lingered. You know, the team would survive if you took a few days off. Once the last time you used your vacation days, I couldn't remember. Between project deadlines and hoping for wedding preparations, I'd barely take any weekends, let alone proper time off. I'm fine. I repeat it, but the words sounded hollow even to my own ears. 20 minutes later, I found myself locked in the third-floor bathroom, silent tears streaming down my face as I clutched the sink for support. The fluorescent lights highlighted the dark circles under my eyes, the pallor of my skin. I barely recognized myself. This wasn't the first time Kevin had excluded me since Stephanie entered his life. There was the law firm's holiday party, where +1s were supposedly limited, yet other colleagues brought siblings, the housewarming celebration for their new Beacon Hill brownstone, where I learned about the gathering through social media posts the following day. The New Year's ski trip with just a few couples that somehow included single friends from Stephanie's side. Each exclusion had hurt, but I'd made excuses for him. He's busy. It was last minute. He's distracted with work. The wedding was different. A wedding was intentional, planned months in advance. This exclusion was deliberate and public. A clear message about my place in his new life. Back at my desk, my phone buzzed with Kevin's name on the screen. I stepped into the stairwell to answer. Hey, he said, his voice casual as if nothing was wrong. Sorry, I missed your calls. Things are crazy with wedding planning. I bet, I replied, struggling to keep my tone neutral. Though I wouldn't know, since I'm apparently not invited. He sighed. Haley, it's complicated. The venue. Don't. I cut him off. Stephanie already tried the venue excuse. If the space is so limited, why are people I've never met on the guest list while I'm not? Silence stretched between us. What's really going on, Kevin? I pressed. I deserve the truth. Stephanie thinks. He started, then paused. She's worried you might make things about yourself. She says you've always been too dramatic, too emotional. The words hit like physical blows. Too dramatic? For having normal human feelings? For expecting to be included in my only brother's wedding? You're proving her point right now, he said. His voice taking on the condescending tone he used in legal arguments. Listen, we just want a drama-free day. And I'm the drama? My voice rose despite my efforts to control it. I've supported you through everything, Kevin. Everything. When did I become someone you're ashamed of? I'm not ashamed of you, he protested weakly. It's just Stephanie and I agree this is best. Best for whom? Certainly not for me. And I don't think it's best for you either, but you're too far under her influence to see it. That's not fair, he snapped. You've never given her a chance. I've given her nothing but chances. I was shouting now, grateful for the empty stairwell. I've tried for 4 years to connect with her, to support your relationship, to maintain our bond despite her obvious dislike of me. And this is what I get. Maybe this is why, he said coldly, this reaction right here. This inability to think about anyone but yourself. The accusation stunned me into silence. Was that how he saw me, as selfish? When had our perspectives of our relationship diverged so dramatically? I have to go, he said into the silence. Stephanie's waiting. I hope you can respect our decision and be happy for us from a distance. The call ended, and with it, something fundamental between us. I slumped against the wall, a strange calm replacing the storm of emotions. It was the calm of finality, of a door closing permanently. I returned to my desk, opened my laptop, and did something I'd never done before. I requested emergency vacation time, all 4 weeks I'd accumulated. My boss, seeing my red-rimmed eyes and ashen face, approved it without question. That night, I sat cross-legged on my bed with my laptop, scrolling through travel websites as if in a trance. Southeast Asia, Australia, South America, places that had always seemed like someday destinations. Why not now? What was keeping me here really? At 2 a.m., I purchased a one-way ticket to Bangkok, Thailand. The cost made me wince, but something about the decisiveness of the action felt right. I would not sit home alone on Kevin's wedding day, scrolling through social media posts and feeling sorry for myself. I would be too busy living. Packing was cathartic. I pulled clothes from hangers with abandon, stuffed toiletries into bags, and selected books I'd been meaning to read for years. In the back of my closet, I found a photo album from our childhood, Kevin giving me a piggyback ride at the state fair. Both of us missing teeth and grinning wildly. I hesitated, then left it on the shelf. This journey wasn't about looking back. As I locked my apartment door the next morning, suitcase in hand, I felt something unexpected alongside the hurt. A flicker of excitement. For the first time in my adult life, I was doing something completely unplanned, completely for myself. If Kevin could rewrite our relationship, then perhaps I could rewrite my own story too. Logan International Airport buzzed with early morning activity as I wheeled my suitcase through automatic doors. The familiar anxiety of travel. Did I forget? Is my passport actually in my bag, mingled with a strange sense of liberation? For 24 hours, I would be suspended between worlds, unreachable, belonging nowhere and everywhere. Security lines and boarding announcements faded into white noise as I waited at my gate, watching families and couples and solo travelers like myself coming and going. A young woman tearfully embraced her parents before heading to her departure gate. The scene triggered a memory. Kevin driving me to college, helping carry boxes to my dorm room, his fierce hug before he left. "You're gonna crush it, Hales," he'd said, voice gruff with uncharacteristic emotion. "Call me anytime, day or night." I'd taken him at his word back then, never imagining a time when he wouldn't pick up. The 20-hour journey to Thailand, Boston to Tokyo to Bangkok, gave me ample time to reflect. Somewhere over the Pacific, wrapped in the anonymous darkness of an airplane cabin at night, I began to write in the journal I'd impulsively purchased at an airport shop. Not about Kevin or the wedding, but about myself. When had I last done something spontaneous? When had I prioritized adventure over stability? Had I become too predictable? Too safe? Perhaps there was a kernel of truth in Kevin's cruel words. Not that I was selfish or dramatic, but that I had perhaps lived too long in the shadow of our shared history, measuring my worth by the strength of our bond rather than creating an identity wholly my own. Bangkok greeted me with a wall of heat and humidity as I exited Suvarnabhumi Airport. The sensory assault was immediate: honking tuk-tuks, street vendors calling out a musical Thai, the pungent blend of exhaust fumes, tropical flowers and cooking spices. In the chaos, I felt wonderfully, terrifyingly anonymous. The hostel I'd booked last minute was in the Ari neighborhood, less touristy than the Khao Sand Road area, according to my hurried research. The female-only dormitory was clean and modern, with privacy curtains on each bunk and lockers for valuables. As I stowed my backpack, a voice came from the bunk above. First time in Thailand, I looked up to see a woman about my age with sun-freckled skin and a messy blonde topknot. "Is it that obvious?" I asked. She laughed. "You have that wide-eyed, slightly terrified look. I'm Audrey, by the way, from Vancouver." "Haley, Boston, solo traveler?" I nodded. The reality of my situation suddenly hitting me. I was literally on the other side of the world, alone, with no real plan. "Best way to travel," Audrey said confidently. "A few of us are heading out for street food if you want to join." Best cure for jet lag is to power through and adjust to local time immediately. My instinct was to decline, to retreat to the safety of solitude. But wasn't breaking patterns the whole point of this journey? I'd like that, I heard myself say. That first evening in Bangkok was a blur of new experiences. Navigating the SkyTrain, eating pad thai from a street vendor, while perched on a tiny plastic stool, learning to say, "Thank you" in Thai from Audrey and her friends. I fell into bed exhausted, but too stimulated to sleep, the unfamiliar sounds of the city filtering through the hostel window. The next morning, I set out alone to explore, armed with a tourist map and limited confidence. Within an hour, I was hopelessly lost in a labyrinth of market stalls. Panic rose in my throat as I circled the same temple for the third time. Then my phone pinged with a text from my mother. "Just picked up my mother of the groom dress. Navy blue with sequins. Kevin says the venue looks gorgeous with all the flower arrangements." Reality crashed back. While I was wandering foreign streets, preparations for a celebration, I wasn't welcome to attend continued without a hitch. The casual cruelty of the message, my mother's obliviousness to how such updates might affect me, triggered a wave of dizziness. I stumbled to a nearby bench, breathing becoming difficult. A panic attack here, now thousands of miles from home. Perfect. Miss? Miss okay? An elderly Thai woman from the nearby flower stall approached, concern evident despite the language barrier. I tried to nod, but tears betrayed me. Without hesitation, she disappeared into her stall and returned with a small cup of water and a jasmine flower, which she gently tucked behind my ear. "Beautiful lady, no cry," she said in halting English, patting my hand. Thailand, happy place. The simple kindness from a stranger broke something open in me. I accepted the water with shaking hands, the jasmine's sweet scent cutting through my distress. When my breathing steadied, I purchased one of her intricate flower garlands, overpaying deliberately. Her smile as she waved goodbye felt like the first genuine human connection I'd had in months. That night, I found a small restaurant where I ordered by pointing at another customer's dish. The resulting meal, a fragrant green curry with vegetables I couldn't identify, was the most vibrantly alive thing I tasted in years. As I savored each bite, my phone lit up with another text, this time from Kevin. "Mom said she told you about the venue. Hope you're doing well. Miss you." Miss me? The audacity nearly made me laugh aloud. I turned my phone off without responding and ordered mango sticky rice for dessert. Tomorrow I decided I would leave Bangkok. The city's frenetic energy matched my internal chaos too closely. I needed space to breathe, to think, to begin healing. At the hostel, I researched coastal destinations and booked a bus ticket to Krabi province in southern Thailand. As the air-conditioned bus wound through the Thai countryside the next day, lush green landscapes, unlike anything in New England, stretched in every direction. Palm trees, rice paddies, small villages with golden temple roofs glinting in the sunlight. For the first time since receiving that cream-colored envelope, I felt a flicker of gratitude. If I'd been included in the wedding, I'd be in Boston right now helping with centerpieces, or attending bridal showers, playing my assigned role in someone else's story. Instead, I was writing a new chapter of my own, one where being excluded wasn't an ending but a beginning. Riley Beach materialized like a postcard come to life. Limestone cliffs towering over turquoise water, longtail boats bobbing on gentle waves, powdery white sand stretching into the distance. My beachfront hostel was simple, but positioned perfectly for sunset views. After the sensory overload of Bangkok, the rhythm of ocean waves felt like medicine. On my second evening, I noticed a small group around a beach bonfire and recognized Audrey's distinctive laugh. She spotted me and waved enthusiastically. "Boston, come join us." The circle opened to include me. Audrey from Vancouver, Tyler, an American photographer from Seattle documenting Southeast Asian climbing destinations, Maya, a Canadian kindergarten teacher on summer break, and Luis, a Spanish chef taking a year off to travel before opening his own restaurant. "What brings you to Thailand solo?" Maya asked, as she passed me a bottle of local beer. "Just needed a change of scenery." I replied automatically, the deflection practiced. Tyler gave me a knowing look. Most people don't fly across the world on a whim just for scenery. There's usually a story there. Something about the gathering, strangers becoming temporary family around firelight, the vast darkness of ocean and sky making human problems seem smaller, loosened my grip on privacy. "My brother is getting married," I said, surprised by my willingness to share. And I wasn't invited. Instead of awkward sympathy, there was a moment of collective indignation on my behalf. "That's messed up," Tyler said simply. "Family can really hurt you in ways no one else can." "Tell me about it," Louise added. "I didn't speak to my father for 3 years after he missed my culinary school graduation for a golf tournament." "Are you close with your brother usually?" Maya asked. The question opened a floodgate. Before I knew it, I was telling these strangers everything: the childhood bond, the gradual distance, Stephanie's subtle hostility, the adult's only excuse. As I spoke, the hurt transformed from a private shame to a shared human experience. "My sister and I haven't spoken in 5 years," Tyler confided when I finished. "She married a guy who thought I was a bad influence because I chose photography over a real career. Eventually, she stopped returning my calls." "Have you tried to reconnect?" I asked. "Every birthday, every Christmas," he said. "At some point, you have to accept that you can't force someone to want you in their life. Even family. Especially family." Maya, more optimistic, insisted that time often healed such wounds. "My mother and aunt didn't speak for a decade over inheritance drama. Now they're inseparable." "The question isn't whether he'll come around," Louise said, poking the fire with a stick. "It's whether you'll still want him in your life, if he does." Their perspectives, ranging from Tyler's pragmatic acceptance to Maya's hopeful patience, offered a prism through which to view my situation differently. These weren't people who knew Kevin or me or our history. Their insights came without agenda or baggage. The next morning, when Tyler invited me to join their island-hopping excursion, I agreed without hesitation. The day passed in a blur of snorkeling over coral reefs, climbing rocky outcrops to panoramic viewpoints, and sharing fresh pineapple on pristine beaches accessible only by boat. 4 hours at a time, I forgot about Boston, about the wedding, about the hurt. That night, checking my email on the hostel's spotty Wi-Fi, I found a message from my boss. "Team misses you, but take all the time you need. Position secure when you're ready to return." The assurance of a job to come back to feed something in me. On impulse, I extended my hostel reservation by 2 weeks, then messaged my new friends to see if they were interested in traveling north to Chiang Mai afterward. All 3 were enthusiastic, and just like that, my impromptu escape transformed into a proper journey. The following days established a rhythm. Mornings exploring with my travel companions, afternoons sometimes alone with my journal on quieter beaches, evenings sharing meals and stories. I deleted my social media apps, tired of the wedding updates that friends unknowingly shared. The distance from constant digital connection proved surprisingly liberating. A week into our time in Rayleigh, we volunteered at an elephant sanctuary in the nearby jungle. Unlike the tourist traps offering elephant rides, this was a legitimate rescue operation where elephants roamed outside. We prepared food, cleaned enclosures, and observed these gentle giants from a respectful distance. "They never forget their families," the sanctuary director told us. "Elephants maintain bonds over decades, even when separated. They mourn their dead, celebrate births, protect their vulnerable. In many ways, they understand family better than humans do." Watching a mother elephant gently guiding her calf through a mud pit, I felt unexpected tears spring to my eyes. Tyler, noticing, quietly handed me his camera. "Sometimes seeing things through a different lens helps," he said. "Try focusing on them instead of whatever's going on inside your head." Through his viewfinder, I captured the elephant's tender interactions, trunks entwined, bodies positioned to shade younger members from the sun, the matriarch keeping constant watch. The focus required to take good photographs pushed other thoughts aside, creating a meditative space where past and future momentarily cease to exist. That evening, Maya convinced us to visit a nearby Buddhist temple where an English-speaking monk offered meditation guidance to visitors. The temple was a haven of tranquility, golden Buddha statues gleaming in candlelight. The monk, younger than I expected, and with an unexpected sense of humor, spoke about attachment as the root of suffering. "We cling to expectations of ourselves, of others, of how relationships should be," he explained. "When reality differs from these expectations, we suffer. The path to peace is not forcing reality to match our expectations. but adjusting our expectations to accept reality. That sounds like giving up, I said, the words escaping before I could filter them. He smiled. There is a difference between surrender and acceptance. Surrender is defeat. Acceptance is understanding that some things are beyond your control, and choosing to direct your energy where it can make a difference. In your own actions, your own heart. His words followed me back to the beach, where I sat alone watching moonlight on water. I had expected Kevin to maintain our bond despite Stephanie, despite growing differences in our lives. I had expected family to trump all other considerations. When reality failed to meet these expectations, I'd been devastated. But what if I accepted the reality? Not as fair or right, but simply as what was. What if, instead of fighting for a relationship with someone who clearly didn't prioritize me, I focused on connections that were freely offered, like my new friends? What if the energy I'd spent feeling hurt was redirected into building a life so fulfilling that exclusion from a single event, even one as significant as a brother's wedding, couldn't derail my happiness? For the first time, I considered the possibility that this painful rejection might actually be a gift. The push I needed to stop in relation to others, and start discovering who I was on my own terms. In Chiang Mai's ancient walled city, calendar notifications became impossible to ignore. 3 days until Kevin's wedding. 2 days. 1. I'd been marking time by Thai adventures rather than wedding milestones, but reality had a way of intruding despite distance. The actual wedding day began with a 3 a.m. panic attack in our guest house. I slipped outside to avoid waking Maya in our shared room, sitting on the stone steps as anxiety crashed over me in waves. This was the moment I'd been dreading and trying to outrun since the non-invitation arrived. Couldn't sleep either. Tyler appeared in the doorway, camera in hand. I was heading out to catch sunrise at Doi's Southap Temple. Wanda join? I hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Definitely yes. The mountainous temple complex was shrouded in dawn mist when we arrived. Gold stupas emerging like islands in a cloud sea. While Tyler photographed monks beginning their morning rituals, I found a quiet corner overlooking the city below. Back in Boston, it would be afternoon. Kevin would be getting ready, perhaps nervous, surrounded by groomsmen. My parents would be dressed in their finest, my mother and her navy sequin dress. Stephanie would be transformed into a bride, her triumph complete in excluding me from witnessing this milestone. Tyler found me still sitting there an hour later, his photography finished. Without a word, he sat beside me. "Today's the wedding, isn't it?" he asked quietly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. "I figured. You've had this look all week, like you're bracing for impact." He hesitated. "Want to talk about it?" "Not really," I admitted. "But maybe I need to." He waited patiently as I gathered my thoughts. "I've been trying to understand why it hurts so much," I finally said. "It's just one day, right? But it feels like being erased from his life, from our shared history." "It's symbolic," Tyler said. "Weddings are about merging families, creating new bonds. Being excluded sends a pretty clear message about where you stand." "Exactly." The validation was surprisingly comforting. "I keep wondering if I did something wrong. If I deserve this somehow. From everything you've told us, the only thing you did wrong was exist as a reminder of who your brother was before his fiancée came along." His tone was matter of fact, rather than pitying. "Some people need to erase their past to move forward. It says more about them than about you." We watched in silence as the sun fully emerged, burning away mist to reveal the sprawling city below. "I've been thinking about writing him a letter," I confessed. "Not angry or accusatory, just honest about how this has affected me. I'm not sure if I should send it." "Want help drafting it?" Tyler offered. Sometimes an outside perspective helps find the right words. Back at the guest house, Maya and Luis had organized a surprise day trip to a hidden waterfall they'd heard about from locals. Their attempt to distract me. The gesture nearly brought me to tears. "First, breakfast and letter writing," Maya declared. "Then adventure. No wallowing allowed today." Over mango sticky rice and strong Thai coffee, I poured my heart onto paper with Tyler's occasional gentle guidance. "Dear Kevin, as you read this, you're probably married. I hope your day was everything you dreamed it would be. Despite everything, I want you to be happy. That hasn't changed since we were kids. And I looked up to my big brother as my hero. What has changed is my understanding of our relationship. Your decision to exclude me from your wedding clarified things I've been trying to ignore for years. The brother who once drove ours to bring me soup when I was heartbroken wouldn't have allowed anyone, even someone he loves, to push his only sister away on such an important day. Asterisk. I'm not writing to make you feel guilty or to demand explanations. I'm writing because holding these feelings inside has become too painful, and I need to release them to move forward. Being uninvited from your wedding hurt more deeply than I can express. It felt like a public declaration that our shared history and bond meant nothing compared to your new family's preferences. Asterisk. This isn't about disliking Stephanie or not supporting your relationship. It's about feeling disposable to someone who once made me feel irreplaceable. It's about wondering what changed in you and me and us that made my presence on your wedding day unwelcome rather than essential. Asterisk. I'm currently in Thailand, finding my way through this hurt. I've met incredible people who have helped me see that family is both what we're born into and what we choose. I hope someday we can rebuild a relationship based on mutual respect and genuine desire for connection, rather than obligation or shared history alone. Asterisk. I will always cherish the brother you were to me growing up. I hope someday to know and cherish the man you've become, if there's room for me in that picture. Asterisk. With love. Asterisk. Haley. Asterisk. I sealed the letter in an envelope addressing it to his home rather than the honeymoon destination. Whether I'd actually send it remained uncertain, but writing it felt like lancing a wound. Painful but necessary for healing. The waterfall excursion proved to be exactly what I needed. A strenuous hike through dense jungle. The reward of swimming in crystal-clear pools beneath cascading water. A picnic on sun-warmed rocks. In those moments of pure presence, Kevin's wedding faded to background noise rather than the main event of my day. That evening, as the others went out to explore Chiang Mai's famous night market, I stayed behind. Suddenly needing solitude, when my phone rang with my mother's number, I almost didn't, but curiosity went out. Haley, can you hear me? The connection's not great. My mother's voice sounded thin and far away. I hear you, Mom. How was the wedding? I asked, surprised by my own composure. Beautiful. Everything went perfectly. She paused. Except for one thing. What's that? Your brother kept looking for you, she said softly. During the ceremony, during photos, during the first dance, he'd scan the room like he was expecting you to appear. Something tightened in my chest. Did he say any? Not directly. But he seemed off. Distracted. Even Stephanie noticed. Another pause. I think he regrets how things happened, honey. I wasn't sure how to feel about this information. Part of me wanted vindication for Kevin to realize his mistake, and suffer for it. Another part just felt sad for both of us. Trapped in patterns neither fully understood. It's done now, I said finally. I hope they're happy together. After we hung up, I sat on the guesthouse balcony watching street life below, processing the conversation. My phone buzzed again around midnight. Kevin's number. My heart raced as I answered. Haley. His voice was slurred. Background noise, suggesting a bar or club. Is that you? It's me. Aren't you supposed to be celebrating right now? I am. We are. Honeymoon and Bali. He sounded artificially cheerful. But I needed to call you. Needed to hear your voice. You're drunk, Kevin. Maybe. Probably. He laughed. Then his voice dropped. I made a mistake. Haley's biggest mistake. Should have had you there. In the background, I heard Stephanie's voice sharp with irritation. Kevin, who are you talking to? It's my sister, he replied. Voice moving away from the phone. I'm just telling her about the wedding. Now, it's our honeymoon. Hang up. Just 1 minute, he protested. Now, Kevin. Her tone broke to no argument. He returned to the phone. You got the go. But I needed you to know I missed you. We'll fix this when I get back. Okay? Promise. Love you, Hales. The call ended before I could respond. I sat staring at my phone. Emotion swirling. The Kevin who called. Emotional. Regretful. Easily swayed. Was the brother I remembered. And the husband I feared he'd become. His moment of clarity, brought on by alcohol and distance from Stephanie's immediate influence, confirmed what I'd suspected. He had known excluding me was wrong, but lacked the courage to stand firm. Yet his promise to fix this rang hollow. What exactly did fixing entail? A belated apology? Occasional inclusion when Stephanie permitted it? I was no longer sure that was enough. Tyler found me still on the balcony an hour later, returning from the night market with a small paper bag. "Thought you might need this," he said, revealing a bottle of Thai whiskey and 2 small glasses. "Maya mentioned your mom called. Wedding update." I nodded, accepting a measured pour. "And Kevin, too, actually. Drunk dialed me from his honeymoon to say he regrets not having me there." Tyler raised an eyebrow. "How do you feel about that?" "Confused. Sad. A little angry still." I sipped the whiskey, welcoming its warmth. 2 months ago, that call would have meant everything to me. Now, I'm not sure it changes anything. "Because words are easy," Tyler suggested. "Especially drunk ones." Exactly. He had months to stand up for me, to insist I be included. He chose not to repeatedly. One remorseful phone call doesn't erase that. We sat in companionable silence, the city's distant sounds creating a gentle backdrop. "The monk at the temple said something that keeps coming back to me," I said eventually, "about directing energy, where it can make a difference. I've spent so much energy on a relationship that Kevin wasn't equally invested in. And now," I looked out at the twinkling lights of Chiang Mai, so far from everything familiar, yet somehow feeling more at home than I had in months. "Now I think I need to set some boundaries. If when he reaches out again sober, I'll be honest about what I need from him going forward. Not promises, but consistent actions that show I matter." I turned to Tyler. "But I'm also realizing my happiness can't depend on his choices anymore." He clinked his glass against mine. "That, my friend, sounds like the beginning of freedom." My final days in Thailand passed in a kaleidoscope of experiences. Releasing paper lanterns into the night sky during a local festival. Learning to cook authentic pad Thai from a grandmother who spoke no English, but communicated perfectly through smiles and gestures. Meditating at sunrise with Maya. Photographing street life with Tyler. Sampling exotic fruits and markets with Luis. With each new experience, the wedding and its aftermath receded further into perspective. A significant hurt. Yes, but no longer the defining story of my life. "You're different than when we met," Audrey observed our last night together in Bangkok, where we'd returned to catch our respective flights home. "Less tense, more present." "Thailand changed me," I said, "but that wasn't quite right. Or rather, it gave me space to change myself." We exchanged contact information with genuine promises to stay in touch. Tyler was heading to Vietnam next, Maya back to Canada for the school year, Luis to Indonesia, to continue his culinary exploration. Our paths had crossed briefly, but meaningfully. Proof that family could be found in unexpected places. The flight back to Boston gave me time to prepare mentally for return. I'd been gone just over 3 weeks, but it felt like years. The journal I'd started on the outbound flight was now filled with observations, insights and plans. Not just travel plans, but life plans. Changes I wanted to make, boundaries I needed to set, dreams I'd deferred too long. My apartment felt smaller than I remembered, slightly stale from disuse. I threw open windows, unpacked souvenirs, a hand-carved elephant, colorful silk scarves, spices for Thai cooking attempts. Rather than simply replacing everything as it had been, I rearranged furniture. Hung photographs Tyler had taken of our adventures, created a meditation corner with cushions inspired by the temple. The physical changes reflected internal ones. I was not returning to my old life, but creating a new one that incorporated what I'd learned. At work, colleagues noticed the difference immediately. "Whatever that vacation did, you should bottle and sell it," my boss said after I presented fresh ideas for our struggling client campaign. "You're practically glowing." I threw myself into projects with renewed creativity, no longer working overtime out of a vague sense that I had nothing better to do. Instead, I established clearer boundaries between work and personal time, using evenings to explore local photography classes, join a hiking group, and experiment with Thai cooking techniques. Kevin returned from his honeymoon 2 weeks after I came home. His text was casual, as if nothing significant had happened between us. "Back in town, coffee soon." We arranged to meet at a neutral cafe, halfway between our neighborhoods. I arrived early, claiming a corner table and ordering tea to calm my nerves. When he walked in, I was struck by how ordinary he looked. The same Kevin as always. Not the villain or hero my emotions had painted him to be. "You look great," he said after an awkward hug. Different somehow. Thailand agreed with me. I replied simply. He nodded, fidgeting with his coffee cup. "About the wedding?" "It's okay," I interrupted. "You don't need to explain." "I do though." His expression was pained. "I've been a terrible brother. The way everything happened with the invitation, it was wrong. I knew it was wrong even, as I went along with it." "Why did you?" I asked the question that had haunted me for months. He sighed heavily. "It's complicated. Stephanie and her family had this vision of the perfect day. When her parents offered to pay for most of it, they came with conditions about the guest list. I told myself it was just one day, that it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But it didn't matter," I said quietly. "It was symbolic of something bigger happening between us. I see that now." He stared into his coffee. "For what it's worth, I regretted it the entire day. It felt wrong not having you there." "I appreciate you saying that," I said, surprised to find I genuinely meant it. "But Kevin, this isn't just about the wedding. It's about years of pulling away, of letting your relationship with Stephanie change your relationship with me." He didn't deny it, which was something. "I don't know how to balance everything. Stephanie gets jealous sometimes of my relationship with you, with how close we were growing up. She didn't have that with her siblings." "That's understandable," I said carefully. "But it doesn't make it okay to exclude me from important parts of your life. I'm not asking to be your priority, but I am asking to be valued." "You are valued," he insisted. "I love you, Hales. That never changed. Love isn't just a feeling, Kevin. It's actions. It's showing up. It's sometimes making difficult choices to protect important relationships." I took a deep breath. "Moving forward, I need to see consistent effort from you if you want me in your life. Not just when it's convenient or when Stephanie approves." He looked startled by my directness. The old Haley might have accepted his apology without conditions, grateful for any reconnection. The new Haley understood her own worth too well for that. "That's fair," he said finally. "I want to do better. I miss my sister. I miss my brother too, I admit it. The one who saw me clearly and valued what he saw." We talked for nearly 2 hours, covering ground we should have addressed years ago. There were no miraculous resolutions or tearful reconciliations. Just two adults tentatively rebuilding a damaged bridge, neither certain it would hold, but both willing to try. As fall turned to winter, Kevin made small but consistent efforts. Weekly phone calls, occasional lunch meetings, even inviting me to dinner at their home, though Stephanie remained coolly polite rather than welcoming. I accepted these overtures with cautious optimism, while maintaining the full life I'd begun creating post-Highland. Thanksgiving brought the first real test, a family gathering at my parents' home with Kevin and Stephanie attending. The potential for awkwardness was high, but I arrived centered after a morning meditation and determined to focus on gratitude rather than lingering hurt. Stephanie's coolness continued, but I found it affected me less than before. Her opinion of me was her business. I no longer needed her approval to validate my place in my brother's life. Kevin noticed her behavior more clearly now, occasionally redirecting conversations when she became dismissive or checking in with me privately to ensure I felt included. Small steps, but meaningful ones. As dishes were cleared and family dispersed to various couches for post-meal naps, Kevin found me on the back porch. "Thanks for being here," he said simply. "It means a lot. I'm glad I came, though I almost didn't. I had an offer to join Tyler in Peru for the holiday. He's photographing Machu Picchu for National Geographic." "Tyler from Thailand?" Kevin asked, looking genuinely interested. "You've stayed in touch?" I nodded, showing him recent photos Tyler had sent from his travels. "We all have Maya, Luis, Audrey. We're planning a reunion trip to Japan next spring." "That's amazing," Kevin said. And I detected no judgment, only perhaps a hint of wistfulness. "You've built quite a life while I wasn't paying attention." "I had to," I said honestly. "I couldn't keep waiting for my happiness to come from our relationship being fixed." He absorbed this with surprising grace. "I understand that now. I'm just grateful you're giving us another chance." Later that evening, back in my apartment, I texted Tyler about the day's events while finalizing details for my weekend photography workshop. On my wall hung a framed image he'd taken of me at the elephant sanctuary. Head thrown back in laughter, some light catching my hair, looking completely present and alive. Beside it was a new calendar marked with upcoming adventures, a solo hiking trip to Maine, a cooking class series, the Japan reunion. The journey that began with a painful exclusion had led me to unexpected inclusion in a broader world. The brother, who had once been my entire definition of family, was now just one important thread in a rich tapestry of connections. As I prepared for bed, I noticed Kevin had liked my recent Instagram post. A self-portrait taken at the summit of a local hiking trail. A small gesture, but one that suggested he was finally seeing me as I now was, not just who I had been in relation to him. The path forward remained uncertain. Relationships damaged by years of neglect weren't repaired in weeks or months. Stephanie might never fully welcome me. Kevin might struggle to maintain his promises when pressured. But for the first time, I faced these possibilities without fear. My happiness no longer hinged on outcomes I couldn't control. The uninvitation that once devastated me had ultimately given an unexpected gift. It had forced me to discover who I was beyond being Kevin's sister. Beyond familiar patterns and comfortable limitations. In losing what I thought was essential, I had found something more valuable. Myself. So what about you? Have you ever experienced painful exclusion that ultimately led to unexpected growth? Or how to set boundaries with family members who hurt you? Thank you for traveling this path with me today. And until next time, keep creating your own adventures, whether they include everyone you hoped for or not.